It all began routinely enough. A man had shot himself in the head. It was the standard suicide scene, which required me to photograph the victim, collect gunshot residue, and any other items of interest to eliminate the possibility of murder. Every suicide is treated as a murder. One has to be careful. Sometimes the seemingly obvious suicide turns into an ungodly mess, with families refusing to believe that their precious loved one could have committed such a heinous sin. They can become rather annoying with their demands for forensic analysis and continual litany of suspects who should be interrogated. Unwanted truth is hard to accept for some people. I try to be empathetic and patient, but a dead body is a dead body. Seldom do I experience an emotional connection. People often say that law enforcement officers are callous, and it's kind of true. Those who aren't tend to leave the profession. Hell, I've had to investigate the suicides of those officers I have known. So there I was, photographing this guy laid out on his back porch. For the most part, his head was gone. Simply put, he had shot himself with a high-powered rifle. From my experience, he had clearly put the barrel of the gun beneath his chin, with it angled toward the back of his head. It's the escaping gases from the explosion that actually ripped the head off, not the bullet. I found the scene especially fascinating. His face was lying off to the left side on the ground. It was held to his neck with a bit of skin. One could have pulled it off and worn it. Not that they were needed for any evidentiary reasons, but I took some extra close-up photographs. I knew a few guys at the office who would appreciate the grotesque beauty of what I was observing. After I finished my investigation, and it was clearly a suicide, I began loading the collected evidence into my vehicle. Bullet fragments removed from the siding of the house, a Remington 223 bolt-action rifle, the gunshot residue kit, and his driver's license, which I had removed from his pants. While I was doing that, a beagle puppy began scratching at my leg. I bent over and vigorously rubbed his head, wondering where this little dog had come from. It dropped something on the ground. It wanted to play. Being otherwise preoccupied, I bent over to pick up the item to throw it for the dog to retrieve. I hesitated when I realized that the dog had brought me a chunk of the guy's skull. Regardless, I picked it up and chuckled. With everything else going on, a grieving wife who was blaming herself for her husband's death, a teenage boy who was trying to console his mother but was clearly in need of consoling himself, I thought about Snoopy. Even as an adult, I loved those comic strips. It was then I remembered that it was Christmas Eve, and I had yet to watch the Charlie Brown Christmas special. It just ain't Christmas for me if I haven't sat down with a case of Schlitz and watched the shenanigans of Schultz's characters. I would have to do that tonight, I thought to myself, as I threw the chunk of skull into the adjoining woods and watched that little puppy run through the snow.